All right, let's talk about that one single document that can make or break your entire career, your resume. But we're not just going to talk about fonts and formatting. We're going to get into how to change it from a boring list of duties into a real story about the value you bring to the table. Let's jump in. So let me just start with a quick question for you. Take a look at your resume right now. Is it really just a list of jobs, or does it actually communicate the amazing impact you've had? Is it telling the kind of story that gets you in the door for the jobs you really want? So here's the game plan for this explainer. First, we'll dig into why most resumes just don't work. Then, we'll talk about the surprising power of being authentic. After that, we get practical, how to actually build your own honest resume. And finally, we'll look at a tool that can be your co-pilot through all this. Okay, so let's get right to the heart of the problem. Why do so many awesome, qualified people get completely overlooked? Well, it's because these days, every single resume has to survive two very different, very tough gatekeepers. First, it has to get past the machine. You've probably heard of this, the Applicant Tracking System, or ATS. It's basically a robot that scans for keywords from the job description. No keywords, no pass. But then, if you make it through, your resume has to pass the human test. A real person, a recruiter, is going to read it. And they aren't looking for keywords anymore. They're looking for proof, for consistency, for a story that actually adds up. And this, right here, is why just stuffing your resume with buzzwords or, slightly exaggerating your accomplishments is such a bad idea. Sure, maybe you trick the machine, but the second a human sees it, the whole thing just falls apart. Because when you exaggerate, you're not just stretching the truth, you're breaking trust. And once that trust is gone, so is the job opportunity. Which brings us right to the solution, authenticity. Now, this isn't about being shy or modest. Nope, it's about being smart. It's a total mind shift, away from just listing what you had to do and towards telling a killer story about the value you created. So, what in the world is an honest resume? Well, think of it like this. It's a document based on facts, on evidence. The whole idea is to stop writing down passive things, like was responsible for, and instead turn those into active achievements that show what you're really worth professionally. And the building blocks for this are actually pretty simple. It's all about action verbs. These powerful, dynamic words that prove you were doing something. You weren't just in charge of a project, you launched it. You didn't just look at a system, you optimized it. These words, they are the engine of your whole story. And this is where it all pays off, way beyond just getting a phone call. When your resume is built on what you actually did, it becomes your script for the interview. The achievements you wrote down, those are just headlines for the stories you're about to tell. You're not trying to remember some fib you told, you're just talking about your work. And that makes you sound credible, reliable, and honestly, way more hireable. Okay, so the theory is great, right? But how do you actually do it? Let's get into the nitty-gritty, the practical playbook for making a resume that really pops with your impact. The mental shift you have to make is actually beautiful in its simplicity. Just stop thinking about what the job description said you had to do. Instead, focus on the outcomes. What happened because you were there? What were the results of the work you did? That's the good stuff. That's where the value is. Now, a fantastic little framework to help you do this is the STAR method. You might have heard about it for interviews, but let me tell you, it is pure gold for writing resumes. For every single bullet point, just ask yourself, what was the situation? What was my task? What specific action did I take? And the most important one, what was the result? Let's see this in action, because this is where it gets really cool. Instead of some vague duty like managed social media accounts, you get a real achievement. Grew organic social media engagement by 45%. The passive, responsible for customer support, becomes the powerful, resolved 30-plus customer tickets daily, maintaining a 98% customer satisfaction score. See the difference? One is a task. The other is a result. That's what gets you hired. Okay, I can already hear the big question coming. That's great, but my job doesn't have all these neat percentages or dollar signs. how am I supposed to quantify my results? And that is a fantastic, totally valid question. The answer is not to just give up. Even if you don't have hard numbers, you can still show your impact by talking about scope and scale. Just think about it for a second. What was the budget for that project you worked on? How many people did you end up training? How often did you have to create that super important report? Or how big was the client you helped? All those details paint a picture of responsibility and impact. All right, here's another classic problem. At work, we're always taught to say we, right? It's all about the team. But on a resume, we doesn't get you hired. So how do you take credit for your part of the work without lying about a team success? The key is to get super specific about your role. Use I statements to carve out your contribution. Maybe you didn't launch the entire product by yourself, but perhaps you contributed to the launch by developing all the user onboarding guides. That's honest, it's powerful, and it proves you're a team player who owns your piece of the puzzle. Now, let's be real. Trying to pull all this amazing information out of your own head can be tough. It takes a lot of work to remember and frame these achievements, and that's where a tool can be really helpful. Like a career co-pilot, we're going to look at one called Cruit that's built to do exactly this. The goal here isn't for some tool to just write your resume for you. It's meant to be a partner in the process. It's designed to ask you the right kinds of questions, kind of like a good career coach would, to help you dig deep, find those accomplishments you forgot about, and then say it all in a way that really lands. And it does this with a few key features. The generic resume module is kind of like having an AI consultant that guides you from those vague duties to solid, star-based achievements. Then there's the journaling module, which acts like a coach, helping you log your wins as they happen so you never forget them. And finally, the tailoring module helps you line up all your awesome, authentic experiences with the specific job you're applying for without ever having to exaggerate. And that brings us right back to the main point of all this. When you get rid of the fluff and the hype and just focus on real, evidence-based achievements, your resume becomes your single most powerful career asset. It is the key that unlocks all the right doors. So I'm going to leave you with this one last thought. Go take another look at your resume. After everything we've just talked about, what is the true story it should be telling about you and the incredible value you bring? Thanks for watching.